Ever since I first began attempting FNAF max modes, my goal had always been to reach the top. No matter how much time and effort it would take, I always knew deep inside that I have what it takes to be one of, if not the best, at whatever I put my mind into. And today, this wish has never been closer to being a reality. In my last max mode video, I completed Girl Boss, a max mode that was top 9 in the max mode list's main list. Until literally a few hours after posting the video. Though I knew this was gonna happen sooner or later. Before even beating Girl Boss, I already had an even bigger challenge set in mind. Something that would forever break the top 10 curse that haunted me ever since Perfect Cacophony. In that same video, I also mentioned the existence of the All Modes list, a list where every single max mode in FNAF is ranked, obviously with a few exceptions. There, a top 9 max mode like Girl Boss was only top 60 in the AML. So I set a goal to not only beat a new hardest challenge, but also to break into the top 10 of this new list. To reach that goal, I couldn't be content with modes like Perfect Golden Freddy or even ESM. I needed a max mode that would take literally everything out of me to be completed. A max mode that to achieve its completion would feel like a hopeless pursuit. That's right, I went absolutely all out with this one. To reach my top 10 AML goal, you'd think I'd start slow with modes slightly harder than Girl Boss. But no, I decided to prove everyone wrong and solidify myself as one of the best to ever touch FNAF. The max mode of choice this time around is none other than Hopeless Pursuit from UCN Deluxe, which is currently at number 15 in the AML. Before you say, but this isn't even in the top 10! Yes, I know this isn't quite top 10, but if you look at the current AML top 10, yeah, it's all Hopeless Pursuit. Now, one thing is still true. The curse is absolutely shattered. UCN Deluxe has unfortunately been removed from the MML by the dev's choice, but back when it was there, it used to sit on number 2 on the main list. And let me tell you, it would still be a number 2 today. There's a reason why whenever a max mode is getting placed, people always say below HP. It's really difficult to get harder than this. For those who don't know, Hopeless Pursuit is a mode that's accessible as a bonus mode in UCN Deluxe. What's UCN Deluxe, you ask? Well, to put it simply, just imagine regular Ultimate Custom Night. It's really chaotic, right? Now imagine it again, but 3 times faster. That's essentially what UCN Deluxe is. Not for the reasons you're thinking of though. What this mod does is it removes the ability to stall animatronics by either sitting in the office, staring at them in the cameras, etc. This means that if an animatronic is in a position to jump scare you or enter the office, they will do it immediately no matter what. If you're not familiar with the max mode community, the absolute hardest FNAF max modes get would be 50-20. Well, here's a couple seconds of 50-20 No Def Coin Deluxe.
Thank you for depositing 5 coins.
That was some crazy UCN gameplay, and I know for a fact you did not understand a thing that just happened. The funny thing about that is that this mode is only the second hardest iteration of 50-20, with Hopeless Pursuit obviously being the hardest. But don't worry, before going over the insanity that is HP, I'll explain the changes UCN Deluxe brings and the first max mode, 50-20 No Def Coin Deluxe. If you're watching this video and don't know anything about UCN, then I highly recommend you watch my UCN Gauntlet video or the Bonus 5's complete UCN guide. Trust me, there's plenty of info about the vanilla game out there, so instead of just wasting time with it, I'll jump straight to the main topic of this video, UCN Deluxe. Like I mentioned before, the main change of this UCN mod is the remove stalling from the characters. However, there are other changes to this game to make the gameplay more dynamic and less unfair. I'll begin with the more general changes. The first change being the night length. In vanilla UCN, every minute in game would take 45 seconds in real time. In Deluxe, this is changed to be a 1:1 ratio, meaning every minute in game is 1 minute IRL, making the overall night length 6 minutes instead of 4.5. Unlike vanilla, the animatronics in Deluxe don't work in set intervals anymore, an example being Toy Freddy or any of the duck characters. In vanilla, they would only jump scare you if you had the camera up at a 0.5 second interval. This is why in 5020 NDC completions, it'll seem like there's not much going on and suddenly they're trying to be as fast as possible in cams to trip into the least amount of 0.5 second intervals as possible. In Deluxe, these intervals have been randomized, making it impossible to predict when a character will show up to jump scare you. Another change that I didn't even know of but makes a lot of sense is that you have more power in Deluxe than vanilla. More specifically, each percent of power is worth more. This is something you can't really notice while playing, but since you'll be using a lot more power of doors and tools, along with the 6-minute night length, it's a more than necessary change. Lastly, the duck lure is no longer permanent. What happens now is that after placing the lure, instead of it staying there until you place it somewhere else, it'll now slowly fade away, forcing you to constantly refresh the lure to keep the animatronics away. So now let's go over some of the character changes. Before we get into it, I want to mention that I'll only go over the most notable changes since, there are 50 characters in this game, and many of the character changes in Deluxe are mostly quality of life stuff. So I'll talk about the most important ones. Immediately, I want to mention the mask characters, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and Wither Bonnie. Since you'll be spending a lot more time in cams, the mask animatronics kill timers are greatly increased compared to their vanilla counterparts. The biggest RNG character in the base game, Foxy, is no longer a pain in the butt, but you're now forced to actually play their mechanic properly. Foxy is now guaranteed to change with Bonnie or vice versa after a certain amount of time, so now you don't have to deal with unwinnable Foxy scenarios at the cost of needing to actually look at him in cams to keep him away. Rockstar Chica's sign no longer needs to be double clicked to be changed. One singular click will already do the job. Why do I mention this? Because in the base game, double clicking the wet floor sign is actually way harder than it seems. In click team games, for a double click to register, you have to click twice in the same pixel of the screen you clicked first. This means any tiny movement will make you have to double click again to actually move the sign. This doesn't sound like a big issue, especially since you have tons of downtime in the office, and that would be true, if it wasn't for a character I haven't mentioned yet, Nightmare Yawn. Nightmare Yawn in vanilla builds up insanely fast. He's the one character that kills everyone's first attempt on 5020. Having to double click the wet floor sign with Nightmare Yawn over it is really frustrating if it doesn't work properly. Speaking of Nightmare Yawn though, in Deluxe, he'll build up slower and fade out faster, making him way less of a threat while you're in the office. Don't think these nerfs make the game any easier than the base game though. 5020 NDC Vanilla is currently ranked number 356 on the AML, whereas 5020 NDC Deluxe sits at 94. Trust me, these changes are very much necessary. The plushies in the prize counter now cost 40 coins each, a whole 20 coin increase from the base game. Nedbear and Orville no longer get pushed away by the heater. Now you must have the duck they're trying to enter from closed to repel them. The other duck characters work about the same, though unlike vanilla, after having any of them lured on the same side for a long amount of time, they'll start ignoring the lure and continuing in their path. Lefty and Nightmare Chica now require a different tool to be calmed down. Previously, you could use the GMB for Lefty to make him go back his stages, but that used to be pretty powerful considering the GMB also winds up Puppet's music box. Now, you have to use the silent ventilation to calm Lefty down, making the tool management a bit more complicated and nerfing the GMB. Nightmare Chica also used to be beneficial to the player, since to get rid of her teeth, you had to use the power AC. And like Lefty with the GMB, using the power AC you would also cool down the office, helping you out against animatronics like Freddy and Jacko Chica. In Deluxe, you have to use the heater instead, indirectly buffing the temperature characters. And that's all the more notable changes. I guess I should make an honorable mention to Afton, who now appears multiple times instead of once per night. But with the chaos that is 5020 in Deluxe, he's basically just another door character. With the Deluxe changes out of the way, let's go over the first UCN Deluxe challenge and first step towards the ultimate goal. 5020 no death coin. Yes! 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 5020 no death coin is where the Deluxe struggle begins. Compared to vanilla 5020 NDC, we have way less RNG, at the cost of way more keyboard and mouse chaos. With the removed stalling from the characters, the amount of downtime you get in this challenge is reduced to almost zero. As soon as you're done dealing with everyone, you have to pretty much immediately do all of it again, and you gotta do this for 6 whole minutes. The reason why I'm going straight to 5020 NDC and not regular 5020 is because 1, it's cooler, and 2, Hopeless Pursuit doesn't allow you to deathcoin anybody. So might as well get used to the entire roster now. If you're used to Vanilla's strategy for 5020, throw all of it out of the window, because in Deluxe, it's a completely different deal. In the base game, the strategy would consist of abusing the whole stalling mechanic and character intervals to beat the knight. For Deluxe, it's not that simple. Here you have to actually play the game in its intended way and deal with each animatronic normally. The 5020 NDC Deluxe strategy can be divided into 4 parts. The introduction, also known as the coin farming phase, the camp cycle and the office cycle, and lastly, the plushie sequence. Let's begin with the coin farming phase. To be able to buy the plushies with their increased prices, we're gonna need to farm a lot more coins than in the base game, since we need in total 120 coins to beat the knight, whereas in vanilla, you'd only need 40 coins and the last plushie animatronic would just get stalled. And that's if you're doing the 2 plushie strat. There's a strategy that consists of buying only 1 plushie at the cost of more RNG regarding Funtime Foxy's showtimes. If you follow that strat, you only need 20 coins. So we're dealing with an increase of 100 coins required to complete this challenge. How is this even possible, you ask? Well, meet the money-making trio, Helpy, BB, and JJ. Helpy, BB, and JJ now have a 100% chance to appear every time you flip up the camera. This means you can farm ungodly amount of coins in a very short amount of time. But coin farming is not an easy task. Meet the I'm gonna ruin your day losers. Nightmare Yawn, Golden Freddy, and Nightmare BB. Alright, I'm not gonna delay this any longer. At the start of the night, turn off the fan and begin what's called the maskless coin farm. This consists of flipping the camera up and down and collecting coins by clicking on Helpy and closing the right vent on BB or JJ. So basically, you want to flip up the camera, flip it down, close the side vent, click on Helpy, open the side vent, and repeat. Unfortunately, this isn't so easy. You also have to pay attention to whenever Nightmare BB stands up and flash him before flipping the camera up again. I also recommend making this movement with your cursor when clicking on Helpy. This is to avoid Nightmare Yawn building up too much and killing you. The reason why this is called the maskless coin farm is because, well, you're not using the mask. Okay, I'm just kidding. It's because while farming coins, we're also actively avoiding Golden Freddy without putting on the mask, saving time to grab even more coins before beginning the night. During the coin farming, you should also be checking if Foxy's on the table. If he's there, throw in a quick check when you flip up the camera to reset his movement timer. I know this is a lot of information to take in. To make things easier, here's how the coin farming looks like. Alright, this probably scared you more than anything, but I'm just trolling. That was just me showing off. Here's how it's actually supposed to be done for someone who doesn't have a million hours on the game. If that still looked too hard, then I'm sorry, because that's actually how you have to do it. It takes a ton of practice, but once you get it down, you'll be farming a lot of coins in no time. I'd say a good amount of coins to have after doing maskless is around 25 to 30 coins. And that's the coin farming phase. Once Exor spawns the first secret character, you're gonna switch the wet floor sign and enter the camera cycle. There are 7 checks you must do in this cycle: the introduction, the duct system, the vent system, the 2 hallways, Toy Freddy, and Funtime Cove. The introduction is fairly simple. Here you just want to check Foxy's cam if he's on the table. If not, then skip that and go straight to cam 4, the kitchen cam. The reason why we want to be here is because this allows us to wind Puppet's music box and change the music for Chica. But the best part about it is that if you switch the system and go to the ducts, these buttons are still available to be pressed, even in a different system. The duct system is probably the hardest check to get used to at first. In the ducts, you want to focus on where Nedbear and Orville are. The goal is to always place the lure opposite of them and have the same side they're on shut. To make things easier, every time you enter the duct system, just invert the shut ducts and the lure. But you should still pay attention to these 2 characters, because sometimes you have to just refresh the lure instead of switching it. By the way, before placing a lure or closing a duct, you should wind up the music box fully or next to full, depending on how much of a hurry you're in. For the vent system, the 2 characters you should look for are Mangle and Wither Chica. Whoever is closest to the vent entrance is where you want to place the snare at. While you're at it, you should also look if Molten Freddy is by the entrance. For some reason, Molten Freddy in Deluxe doesn't make his signature laugh before jumpscaring you, so you actually have to actively look if he's there or not. After dealing with the vents, you're gonna head back to the camera system and check cams 2 and 1. This is because you're gonna be looking for Rockstar Bonnie's guitar on all 4 of their spawn spots. But right now you're probably asking, that's only 2 of the 4 cams. What are you on about? Well, that's when the final 2 steps come in. After checking both hallway cams, you're gonna check Toy Freddy and close off Mr. Hugs. Then, click on Funtime Foxy's cam and close cams. One very important detail about Funtime Foxy showtimes is that you don't have to be in cams to watch the show. As long as you have the camera selected, you can do it from the office. I'll quickly take this opportunity to talk about how you're going to be doing showtimes for this challenge. Basically, we're going to check Funtime Cove every hour, even if there's no showtime. The idea is very simple. If a showtime is about to happen and you're in the office, wait it out and then start the next camera cycle. If you're in cams while the showtime is about to happen, you have a few options. Either finish out the cycle and watch the show afterwards, or if you don't have time for that, do ducts and vents and wait at Funtime Cove until the hour change. Then proceed with the cycle. The last thing I want to talk about is Plush Trap. Plush Trap, along with the other secret animatronics, now appears multiple times throughout the night. So when you reach Funtime Cove, make sure to watch Plush Trap a little bit before flipping down the camera. You don't need to watch him until he disappears though. Plush Trap's time to leave is actually cumulative, so if you watch him a tiny bit and flip down cams, when you flip it up again, Plush Trap will leave almost instantly. This strategy will be used for Hopeless Pursuit as well, so take note of it. And that's the entire camp cycle. Again, I know it's a lot to take in, but like, the max mode is in the top 100 of the AML. It's supposed to be hard. Here's how the whole thing looks like in an actual attempt. But anyway, after all that's done, close cams and immediately put on the mask. This is when we begin the office cycle. There's not really a consistent amount of things to do here, but basically, once you have the mask on, you're gonna click on Helpy, switch the wet floor sign, flash Nightmare BB and the Freddles, pay Rockstar Freddy, shock Scrap Baby, and lastly, deal with whichever threats that appear like the Nightmare Bears, Bonnets, or Nightmare Chica. Once every single check is done, check who's on the desk and flip up the camera again. This sounds ridiculous, but I'm just listing the threats you have to defend yourself from. Half of these are RNG and could or could not be there. Okay, now that we're done with the camp cycle and office cycle, let's get back to the night strategy. After Exor spawns the first secret character, you're gonna perform the camp cycle. Except it's a shorter version of it, a mini cycle. Here, we're skipping checking the 2 bottom camps. After doing vents, immediately check Toy Freddy's cam and end on Funtime Cove. You'll repeat this for the next camp cycle as well. The only difference is that this time, the toy animatronics will attack you. Don't be alarmed though. Just keep following the camp cycle, and once you're done, put the mask on as fast as possible. If you're dying to a toy animatronic or Wither Bonnie, you're being too slow. Though there is an exception, the cycle break. A cycle break happens whenever any mask character or bonnets appear right when you begin a camera cycle.
Let's go somewhere more private.
Hey yo, Chica. What you want to do when this happens is basically cut the camera cycle in half. You're gonna follow all the checks I mentioned until you get back to the camera system. Then, flip down the camera and put on the mask. After dealing with all the stuff in the office, pull up the camera again and immediately close off Mr. Hugs and do a full cycle. Now you're back on cycle and not dead to a mask character. Good job, buddy! Another character that can end your run here is Chica. In the base game, Chica was dealt with by simply following the GMB cycle. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, refer to these 2 videos. In Deluxe, we don't have a GMB cycle, so we actually have to play Chica's mechanic, which consists of listening to the pots and pans sound, and then changing the music whenever the sound stops. So while you're winding the music box, listen carefully for Chica. Usually she stops making noise after about 30 to 40 seconds, so after changing the music, you're safe for at least 2 cycles. Now, there is one issue with Chica's pots and pans sound, and that's the very end of the audio track. As you can see, or I guess hear, there's about 1 second where the sound is completely silent. But in game, this is still considered as Chica making noise. That can cause a lot of dumb deaths if you're not careful enough.
Thank you for depositing 5 points.
Before we move on to the plushie sequence, I want to go over a few things. Freddy and the tool management. Freddy in Deluxe is one of the most annoying characters if you're not paying attention. While you're dealing with all the chaos, Freddy will slowly reach your left door and you have to close it when he's about to get in. However, the only way of fending him off effectively is by just knowing when he's at your door. Freddy will reach the left door every 50 seconds. This can vary depending on how high your temperature is. But basically, you'll have to pay attention to the night timer on the top right and look for each 50-second interval. If Freddy isn't offset in any way, he'll attack at 50 seconds, then 140, 230, 320, 410, 5 minutes, and lastly, at 550. An easier way to remember these timestamps is by paying attention to the seconds. Each Freddy attack on the timer will be 10 seconds less than the last. So for an example, after dealing with Freddy on 140, you're gonna pay attention for whenever the seconds reach 30, then 20, then 10, you get the idea. This takes a while to get used to, but like with everything in this challenge, the more you play, the more it'll become second nature. Now let's talk about the tool management. This is actually the easier part of the max mode. To put it simply, whenever you enter camps, turn on power gen and fan. The only thing you have to worry about is Music Man, but the best way to avoid him is to look at your temperature meter. When you reach 60 to 63 degrees, turn off power gen and fan. When you're in the office, turn everything off. Until 1 AM. After 1 AM, you want to turn on silent ventilation every office. This is to avoid Lefty killing you. If you want to save a bit of power, you can check Lefty's cam every now and then and see if he's in an early stage. If he is, you can skip turning on silent ventilation for one office cycle. The third tool you'll use is the heater. About every 30 seconds, Nightmare Chica will spawn, so when she does, turn on the heater until the teeth are fully off screen. Nightmare Chica's teeth don't close in while you're in cams, only when you're in the office. So if you know she's about to appear, you can close cams and immediately turn on the heater for 1 second and you'll get rid of her without heating up the office too much. And now for the last piece of the puzzle, the plushie sequence. At 1 AM, 3 AM, and 5 AM, one of the plushie characters will appear. When this happens, you'll have until the next hour to buy their plushie from the prize counter. If you have enough coins, check Cam 2 during a cam cycle and buy the plushie after Toy Freddy. If you're having trouble getting enough coins for the plushies, I recommend closing off any door or vent characters one at a time. Closing off multiple animatronics at once actually only gives you 1 coin for some reason. So whenever you can, close one door at a time to get the maximum amount of coins per character possible. This is even more essential for Hopeless Pursuit, so if you want to go for that challenge, start building this habit now. And that's the entire 50/20 NDC Deluxe strategy. I'm not gonna lie, it's a really difficult challenge, and it takes a lot of practice to get good at it, but with enough patience and perseverance, this max mode will be defeated. My grind to beat 50/20 NDC Deluxe was not the greatest. In fact, it was the longest grind I've done while playing literally every single day. It took me almost 2 months to complete this max mode, and it was very painful. So what made me go for HP in the first place? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I guess Hopeless Pursuit is just such a popular max mode, and it's also an OG challenge, predating even Ultimatum. So that got me interested in trying it out. Not to say I've also been getting better and better at max modes, beating top 10s left, right, and center. So I needed to break and move past my current skill ceiling. When I first began my attempts at HP, let's just say they didn't go so well. View changelog. Every character appears more often. Many characters are much more aggro than normal. Rockstar Freddy, Rockstar Bonnie, and Plushtrap are permanent. Permanent! Shit, I think we're cooked. Let's see how I do. Okay, I'm gonna try to play like you know, the regular. So I'm gonna play like a. Oh boy, I hate this. Yeah, that feels very overwhelming. Okay, so he just coin farm. Fair enough. I probably. Okay. This is crazy. This pursuit is bound to be quite hopeless. Yeah. Why am I dead? Dude. Oh my. Like, how do you close Nightmare? It's so, like, uncomfortable. Is it time? The Bonus 5 watch party? Obviously, I was way too rusty at the game, having not played Deluxe in like 6 months. Also, this mode is just ridiculous. I mean, here's a few seconds of gameplay on it.
Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 10 for depositing 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 10 and depositing 5. Please deposit.
I think you get the idea. Have you ever seen those Mario challenges where the game is made to be absolutely impossible? Those are called Kaizo challenges. Hopeless Pursuit is basically a Kaizo 50/20 NDC. Everyone is overtuned as hell, and if it seemed like the previous max modes didn't give you any breaks, this mode really doesn't give you any breaks. The only break you get is broken fingers. Before we get into the strategy for this mode, I'll go over all the changes HP brings, and there's a lot of them. The main change Hopeless Pursuit does is it makes it so you have to play perfectly. Making any mistakes which in 50/20 NDC would result, well, most likely in death, now will 100% guaranteed result in death. If Foxy progresses one stage, he simply jump scares you. If you let BB or JJ or Phantom Mangle enter the office, they'll never leave. If you don't catch OMC's fish, you'll never enter the cameras again. If you watch Bonnie instead of Foxy, well, there goes your cams for the entire night. And lastly, watching Phantom BB for too long doesn't just make him jump scare you, he actually just ends the run. I think you can see just how insane this challenge is. The first thing you'll notice when beginning an attempt is that you're missing 40% power from the get-go. But no, you don't need to green run 40% power to survive. Rockstar Foxy now won't kill you and has an option to give you 5% power, meaning you'll have to catch his bird every time it appears. Do not click on any of the other options though, as they're all negative effects. Another big change is that all 3 plushies now cost 60 coins each, meaning to beat the night, you gotta reach poverty. Phantom Freddy cannot be prevented, so you're gonna have to get used to this the entire night.
Please deposit 5 coins. Deposit 5 coins.
Funtime Foxy's showtimes are now on every hour. This isn't much of an issue, but it's a change, so I have to go over it. Chica's pots and pans sound now can only be heard if you're in the kitchen camera. This change is honestly pretty useless, since hearing quiet sounds like that during HP is pretty much impossible. I mean, you've seen the clip. And speaking of that clip, there were 2 sounds that stuck out way more than anything else. The laughing sound and
Please deposit 5 coins.
those 2 sounds are from Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear and Rockstar Freddy. The bears from 50/20 NDC to HP went basically from ultra free to the hardest characters in the game. Nightmare went from appearing roughly around every 25 to 30 seconds to literally 2 to 5 seconds. You heard that right. 2 seconds! You close the door on one of them and they just come right back. Over and over.
What do you mean by that?
Fredbear is pretty much the same, except he'll appear a little bit less. These 2 make up almost all the keyboard chaos in this mode. They are absolutely insane. Many other characters like Ballora, Afton, Ennard, Springtrap, and Molten Freddy also appear more frequently, but I guarantee you, they are not as bad as the Nightmare Bears. The other sound I just mentioned is obviously from Rockstar
Please
Freddy.
deposit 5 coins.
But no, I didn't just pick a part of the night where he's active. He's just always active. After about 45 seconds, he'll start asking for coins, and when you pay him, it just resets his kill timer. Add that to the 180 coin requirement for the plushies, and you'll start to realize how coin pace becomes an issue here. Another Rockstar that's also permanent is Rockstar Bonnie, with the same idea. Once you collect his guitar in the cameras, another one will spawn and his kill timer will be reset. Now, to move away from all the bad stuff, let's go over a couple more simple changes. Freddy now appears more frequently and you have to actually see that he's by your door before you're able to close him off. To compensate for this though, Freddy's time to leave goes from 1 second to 0.5 like everyone else. Jacko Chica will now instantly kill you if the temperature ever reaches 90 degrees. Usually you don't want the temperature to reach 90 anyway, but if it does, well, you're really screwed now, aren't you? Okay, that's all the easier changes, let's get back to the bad ones. Nightmare Eon receives straight up the most evil change of all time. Remember how I mentioned that Nightmare Eon builds up really fast in vanilla, but in Deluxe this was nerfed? Yeah, it's now just as fast again. But the worst part isn't even that. The way Nightmare Eon worked before was it would randomly teleport around all its possible spawn points, and if your cursor was over it, he would start building up. Now, Nightmare Eon is actively seeking your cursor and will always start building up as long as he's not already somewhere else. This might not seem as bad at first, but that's because you haven't seen the crazy shit you have to do during the office cycle. But I'll get there soon. Now for the most annoying change in the entire mode. BB and JJ. Bro, I can't click. BB and JJ still appear every time you flip up the camera, but the difference here is that you only get 0.7 seconds before they enter the office. It's literally that stupid. You want to close the side vent as soon as you flip up the camera, or else the run is over. Because remember, BB and JJ are permanent. So letting them in will eventually lead to death to door characters or anyone that requires the light. The last change is Scrap Baby. If you shock Scrap Baby while she's inactive, she'll take 20% power, which basically means you're gonna power out, unless your name is Serd or something. The 50-20 NDC strategy obviously wasn't gonna work out here, so it was time to do some research to figure out the best way to play HP. Thankfully, there's a really good guide on the mode made by someone I just mentioned, Serd, who for those that don't know, is quite literally the second if not the best FNAF max moder of all time, beating challenges like Hopeless Pursuit release version no power gen, which is the current top one of the all modes list, and Funtime Gala very hard mode 42%. Yes, this guy beat one of the hardest sister location max modes with almost half his power remaining. Absolutely crazy stuff. But enough glazing. Serd has a text guide on how to beat HP, and I'll be leaving it in the description for anybody who needs it. So before going over my experience with the mode, I'll explain the strategy the best way I can so you can have a visual idea of what's going on. You see, before other max modes tried their hand at HP, the first victor of the mode, Pyrus, developed a strategy to get the verification. This strategy consisted of having exact intervals to pull up the cameras and begin a camera cycle. Those intervals were at 11, 26, 41, and 56. These are called Pyrus cycles. However, we can scratch that, because it turns out these intervals aren't the best way to play the night. Instead, Serd came up with the intervals 09, 24, 39, and 54. The most notable interval being 54, now being 2 seconds earlier from a Funtime Foxy showtime. I'll divide these into two categories: the chill cycles and the me bird cycles. The chill cycles being the first and third where you have less things to do, and the me bird cycles where me bird will appear when you flip down the camera. The camera cycle for HP isn't actually that much different from 50-20 NDC. When you flip up the camera, you'll immediately click on the cam system button to despawn the phantoms, check Foxy if he's on the table, and go to cam 4. For the ducts, you play about the same as in the previous max mode, except in HP, Nedbear and Orville take really long to jump scare you, so you can just switch the lure around every cycle without even thinking about the two characters. Obviously, don't forget to wind up the music box to full here and change the music if need be. When you get to the vent system, immediately place the vent snare on the right side in case Wither Chica is about to get in. One thing I haven't mentioned is that you can actually close off Wither Chica with the front vent if she gets past the snare, but only in 50-20 NDC. On Hopeless Pursuit, if she gets through, you're pretty much screwed. Once you close off Wither Chica, find where Mangle is and place the snare on that side. After the vents, go back to the cam system and check both hallways. Keep your eyes peeled on the bottom left side of the screen for Rockstar Bonnie's guitar, because if you miss it, he will get you. If you're on a me bird cycle, Freddy will be at the left hall, so when you switch to his cam, immediately close the left door. You want to do this pretty much as you switch to the camera to avoid him offsetting later on. After that, close off Mr. Hugs as fast as possible, because Toy Freddy is usually about to kill you. Then, wait in Funtime Foxy's cam for about 1 second before flipping down the camera. This is because of the method of dealing with Plush Trap I mentioned before. You want to watch him for half of his leave timer, then watch the rest when you pull up the camera. When you put down the camera, this is when you have to deal with probably the hardest part of this challenge: the office cycle. Here, depending on which cycle you're on, the difficulty of the office cycle will vary. If you're on a chill cycle, it'll be easier. If you're on a me bird cycle, you have to click on 2 additional characters, the me bird and bonnets. Let's just assume you're on the hardest me bird cycle. When you flip down the camera, you have to click on 8 different things before being ready for the next camera cycle: Helpy, me bird, bonnets, the wet floor sign, Rockstar Freddy if he's active, Rockstar Foxy's plus 5 power,
coins.
Scrap Baby Shock if she's active, and the wet floor sign again before flipping up the camera. What you're seeing right now is called the circle. which basically means the path your cursor is going to take during the office cycle forms a circle. Kind of. If it's easier, you can click on Bonnet first, then Meebird. While you're clicking on all the stuff on the left side, you should be careful of Nightmare Yawn. This is because Nightmare Yawn has a spawn that's over Helpy, Meebird, and Bonnet all at once. So instead of making a linear motion for those 3 clicks, you should make this motion instead. This will make Nightmare Yawn build up much slower and give you time to make these clicks without dying. After that, switch the wet floor sign on the right, pay Rockstar Freddy, select the plus 5% power option, and shock scrap baby. Now, you flash the Freddles and Nightmare BB up, and wait until the next cam cycle, where you'll switch the wet floor sign one more time and flip up the camera. This will take a lot of practice, so if you're dying here over and over, don't get discouraged. Now, you might have noticed something about this cycle. Why is the wet floor sign initially on the right? That's because at the beginning of the night, we'll purposefully leave it there to avoid more things to click on the left side, where Nightmare Yawn is. But to do that, I'll go over the beginning of the night again since there are some changes. In HP, the start of the night will be where you want to farm as many coins as possible, like an NDC. But since we need 180 coins in total, the way you farm coins is going to change so you can get even more. The maskless farm is going to be a little bit more like vanilla. The way this will work is basically for each click in cams, you're going to flip down the camera and get a coin from Helpy and BB/JJ. The setup we'll be doing now is clicking on the duck system, placing a lure on the left side, going back to the cam system, checking Foxy, then going to cam 4. Now, you don't want to follow the one-click rule for Foxy's cam, since if you check Foxy and flip down the camera, then Bonnie switch with Foxy, that's a game over. So what you want to do is check Foxy and immediately click on cam 4 in the same flip. After that, you're going to farm in the same way as 5020 NDC Deluxe. But there's a bit of a catch, and that's the Nightmare Bears. They will be bombarding your doors while you're farming, which in a way is a good thing because that means more coins. But also, remember that closing off 2 or more animatronics only gives you 1 coin? Yeah, that's still a thing here. So to get the most amount of coins possible, we'll need to close them one at a time. The problem is that Golden Freddy makes this a bit awkward, and you don't want to put on the mask at all since that just wastes time. So how do you do this? Well, there's one thing I haven't mentioned about Golden Freddy. If Golden Freddy spawns and you put on the mask, he'll appear on the next flip down of the camera. But if you flip up the camera to deal with him instead, he will not appear when you flip down the camera. So while you're in this office with no Golden Freddy, that's when you close both Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear one at a time. So now, keep track of when Golden Freddy spawned and time your door closes so they're only when Golden Freddy isn't in the office. That way, you'll farm the most amount of coins in the most efficient way possible. This is how all of it looks in full. Haven't attempted the max mode in a while. Max modes can be fun. You'll keep farming until 11 seconds. When XOR appears, enter the camera and do a mini cycle. Except you won't end on Funtime Foxy's cam. You'll instead end on cam 4. Also make sure to check Foxy if he's on the table. When you get off cams, you're gonna farm more coins until 26 seconds. To make sure you're on coin pace, you should have at least 39 coins here. Also, at some point during the second coin farm, you'll want to switch the wet floor sign side. When 26 seconds hits, flip up the camera and begin the full camera cycle. There are 2 variations of the cam cycle I still have to go over. The Showtime cycles and the Plushie cycles. The Showtime cycles will always be at the 54-second intervals. What you want to do here is simple. Play the cycle as normal, but after you're done with the vent system, go back to the cam system and immediately click on Funtime Cove. You're gonna sit there until the hour changes, and only then continue the cycle. For the plushie cycles, it's even more simple. There are 3 cam cycles where you want to buy a plushie towards the end of them. The 54 cycle, the 309 cycle, and lastly, the 539 cycle. You should always make sure you have 65 or more coins at these timestamps, because you have to spend 60 coins on a plushie and pay Rockstar Freddy right after. The coin cap in Deluxe is 70 coins, so unfortunately you can't have that many more coins to spare for the next plushies. But anyway, during a plushie cycle, you're gonna pay extra attention to cam 2 to see who's at the hallway. Then, just before heading over to Toy Freddy, go to the price counter and buy the plushie. You're only gonna buy the plushie before Toy Freddy on the 54th cycle though. The next cycles, you'll always want to do it after closing off Mr. Hugs. And that's the entirety of the Hopeless Pursuit strategy. The tool management is still the same here, so there's no need to go over it again. This mode basically comes down to tons and tons of practice and building up muscle memory. The more you practice, the more everything will feel kinda like it's in slow motion, and you'll be able to deal with all the threats much more easily. So, even though I just explained the entire strategy and how you're supposed to play each cycle, actually playing it and doing all that isn't as easy. When I first began my attempts, this would be the average run. And this would continue for hours and hours and hours until I finally had it figured out. Just to put into perspective how messed up the beginning was, after around 9 hours of attempts, my PB didn't even cross the 1 minute mark. Countless runs would die during the coin farming phase, and when I finally managed to get through it, doing the camp cycles and office cycles with all the door characters to manage just felt impossible. Obviously, I knew what I was getting into and was fully expecting this to suck, but man, it still exceeded my expectations. The amount of keyboard clutter on this compared to 5020 NDC is like night and day. It literally feels like you need 2 hands for the keyboard and 1 for the mouse. I've experienced hard challenges before, like for an example, SSM. So far, that challenge was the hardest I've done in this channel. Even though Girl Boss is ranked higher, I had so much more of a better time playing that than SSM. I'm not saying SSM is a bad mode or anything, but it was definitely a lot more painful to grind compared to Girl Boss. It never really crossed my mind that I would experience something more difficult and struggle much more than that. But HP, man, it really did it. The absolute worst part of this mode, without a doubt, was the coin farming. I'm not kidding when I say that 90 to 95% of my attempts never even had a chance to begin because of coin farming. As time went on, more attempts would get past it, but even now, I'd say 2 out of 5 runs still died to the very beginning. This was a huge factor that demotivated me a lot. I'd want to get to the later parts of the night so I can practice how to office cycle and stuff like that, but I'd barely even get the chance to do so. This would in turn make me the most tilted I've ever been grinding a max mode. My god, man, please, come on. What the fuck, man? Like, I can't get past the fucking coin farm. I can't. No, I'm not playing. I'm not fucking playing the game. I'm literally flashing BB and I die anyway. I don't care. I'm not playing. I'm just not playing. Once I got some runs going, more problems would show up. The first one being Phone Guy. Many HP players say Nightmare is the hardest character or Chica, but to me, the worst one was Phone Guy. Not even because he's hard to deal with. It's just that there are some absolutely bullshit mute calls that are actually just cursed. Bro, that can't be real. Like, how is that in his hitbox? Like, genuinely. Yo, I'm dead. I can't believe that! That wasn't even close to the fucking shock button! And to add salt to injury, every time I failed to mute his call, the next attempt he'd show up right as the night began. What the fuck is this mute call? Fuck you mean mute call? Yo! Oh my god. There, I muted your fucking call. This is a bug that's for some reason only in the current version of the game. You'd think this would only happen in like some pre-patch, but no, the dev actually just messed it up. Another issue I had during my grind was Chica. This one is more of a common opinion between HP victors, and it's that this character is straight up ass. You have to carefully listen to the quiet pots and pans sound while all you hear is... And if it just so happens that she's at the very end of the soundtrack, well, either get lucky and change the music next cycle or die. Before playing HP for the first time, I used to play 5020 NDC Deluxe with the default keybinds. Most importantly, L and O for lolbit and Enter for L chip. I was already used to pressing L and O ever since the Perfect Cacophony days, and Enter since the 5020 NDC Vanilla days. So I thought, well, I'm pretty good at pressing these buttons, so I'll just keep them. Not gonna happen. In HP, you have so little time to do so many things that having to take your hand off the important buttons A, W, D, S, F, Z, and C was just asking to die to whatever character requires them. Thankfully, Deluxe allows you to change your keybinds for those two characters. So now I started using Q and E for lolbit and Shift for L chip. It was definitely hard to get used to at first, but as time went on, I got it down and it made the keyboard clutter a lot easier to handle. It was still really hard, but at least these two characters weren't that much of an issue anymore. After a lot of dying, I finally managed to crack that 1 AM barrier.
Deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins.
Yo, we're gaming! Holy shit! The 1 AM is real! Oh my god. That's it, that's the max mode, right? But unfortunately, this was only the beginning. The 12 to 1 AM time frame is actually the easiest part of HP. This is mostly because Rockstar Freddy and Mini Renas aren't even spawned in yet. So in the office cycles, it was a lot easier to see what you're doing and it had less buttons to press. But getting past the first office cycle after 1 AM was the big wall. During this cycle, you have to buy a plushie from the prize counter, complete the hardest version of the office cycle, and all before 109. Doing it all fast enough was what was getting me the most. Since you have to be in cams at the exact times in the chill and me bird cycles, taking even 2 extra seconds could result in death to a couple characters. Those being Happy Frog, the Puppet, Mangler Wither Chica, and Toy Freddy. While you're playing, you may not notice this, but every cycle, you're on the brink of death to many animatronics. This meant that even a small hiccup during a cam or office cycle would pretty much be the end of the run. The only good thing I could take out of this was that the more I mess up the 1 AM cycle, the more I get to practice coin farming, and that whenever I manage to get past it, that would only mean that I have what it takes to beat the night. So although it sucked, the only option I had was to keep going and dying until things just suddenly fell in place. And after many hours of practice, it happened.
5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Thank you for depositing 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit.
Oh, Chica. Fuck. Dude, I actually heard that Chica wasn't making noise. 121, huh? The wall had finally fallen. And not only that, but I managed to get a full cam cycle in too. Sure, I forgot to change music, but honestly, dying to Chica was the least of my worries. I bought the plushie, power was pretty decent actually. Yeah, things are looking pretty good. Now, for the remainder of that stream, I didn't get any more PBs, but overall, it was a very positive day. In a way, I had completed a full HP cycle. I just had to repeat that 4 more times. Well, getting the consistency to do that really wasn't so simple. I didn't manage to get a new PB for at least 3 more days. Always dying to some sort of BS or just a 1 AM cycle in general. I was getting pretty pissed off at the lack of progression, but I can safely tell you, that's just the way this mode is. Because out of nowhere, this happened.
5 points. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Yard, 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please
Yo, that was crazy. That was fucking crazy, dude.
Move over, Freddy Fazbear.
Holy shit.
Happy Frog is the new star of the show.
Oh, dude, wow. Oh my god, I started getting so nervous for no reason, bro. It's only 2 a.m. Wow. 2 a.m., bro. 2 a.m. Okay. Nice little 40-second PB. After lots of hours without any PBs, I just locked in and got a 2 a.m. This made me realize that even though it felt like I was hard stuck, progress was still happening in the background, and all it takes is just one good run to get a really good PB. With this huge PB, I was really motivated. That was officially 1/3 of the craziest FNAF challenge I've ever tried going for. Now all I need to do is just keep going, build up even more consistency, and eventually I'll beat it. Well, although that is true, I can't deny it's also incredibly mentally taxing. Once I got my first 2 a.m., the PBs afterwards were just not coming at all. And this time it was taking even longer than the first wall. I kept dying to stupid stuff like, for an example, the 113 Molten Freddy. When you're doing the 54-second cycle, Molten Freddy isn't at the vent entrance yet, but because that cycle takes a bit longer than all the others due to the hour change, Molten Freddy will literally go from not being there to killing you before you get to the vent system again. So I actually just had to remember that on this specific cycle, I should close the front vent to get rid of him. But with all the shit going on, it was really hard to do that. Aside from that, most of the deaths were just from me being too slow or inaccurate. But again, after not getting anything done for a while...
Nice.
At this point, I realized this was going to be the reoccurring trend with this max mode. Days after days with no PB whatsoever, or PB but very insignificant, and then suddenly we're skipping almost an entire hour. And yeah, that's exactly how it went. Die, 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 oh snap, 317! Die some more, play CS? Oh crap, 4 a.m. By the time I got 4 a.m., it had already been 43 hours of playing HP across 17 days. I was getting really exhausted, and the last thing I wanted to see was a Nightmare BB jump scare. But I knew I was at the home stretch. 2/3 of the night was done, and I just needed to push through a little bit more. I had to give it all I got, even if the energy was low, and I have to say, this moment was one of the worst moments I've ever had in my entire max moding journey. I could not stand losing another attempt. It was getting really bad. No, dude, I'm gonna break something if I continue, bro. I can't keep playing this. I can't keep playing this. I'm actually gonna end up breaking something. This is pissing me off beyond... It's not good, bro. I'm getting tilted in astronomical levels right now. I cannot keep playing. This is ridiculous. I'd rather do anything else right now. It's actually crazy how little fun I'm having now playing this mode. Like, we're at the point where, like, you know, it was fun, just let me beat this shit already, because it's not... I don't really feel anything anymore. My biggest mistake here was thinking I had to win. I had to get this done. What I should have been telling myself is that I want to win. Putting this unnecessary pressure on myself was really destroying me slowly but surely. I couldn't help but ask myself, is this really worth it? Until now, I was streaming 1 to 3 hours of HP every single day. Not one day had I not given at least a few attempts on the mode. Why am I putting myself through all of this pain? All this struggle? Beating easier challenges was doing just fine on my YouTube channel. So why? Why should I keep going? And well, here it is, guys. The Luffuu face reveal. See, okay, let's just begin slow. I don't have any script here or anything. This is just fully like me talking to you guys, right? And also, I know this seems kind of random to like just face reveal out of nowhere, but I think the HP video is a good time to do that. This is gonna be the last video of the year, and I know I'm like looking to the sides every now and then, but that's because I'm not used to like talking directly to the camera. But yeah, I'm also trying to see if I'm looking good. But yeah, I just want to talk about my HP grind in general. Like, throughout like all the grind, it felt just, I don't know how to put it, like it was like I was just endlessly playing like over and over, just like how Afton just keeps dying over and over, like in the lore of UCN. That's how I felt that I was playing, right? That's how I felt I was playing that mode. I was just Afton sitting on that chair. If he's sitting on a chair, he could be standing up, I don't know. I was just sitting there in this endless hell of dying over and over again. It was just horrible. It was completely terrible. Doing max modes is such a mentally taxing thing to do, because there's just, you have to like set everything aside and just focus on that one thing, like over and over again. If you want to beat a max mode, especially like this is something that's more towards like me or like Bones or something like that. But if you're a YouTuber, you have deadlines, right? And these deadlines, you know, you want to meet them, obviously. So like when I don't post a video for like an entire month, I'm like devastated. I hate the feeling, because it just feels like, you know, my channel is gonna be forgotten or something like that. When I play a challenge for my videos, I usually try to choose something that I can do in like a realistic amount of time. And I knew that HP was gonna be just, I was not gonna beat it fast. It's just, it would never happen. It's like the top 2 challenge of the max mode list. It's crazy. I knew very well that when I got to this challenge, it would take a long time. So I actually had a different project that I was gonna work for while I was doing this challenge, and that was the Ultimate Oblitus Casa guide. But turns out the Oblitus Casa guide took a really long time to do as well, to like edit and stuff. So yeah, like throughout that entire like time span of 2 months, it was very horrible, because I was like grinding HP, editing, you know, like getting like the script done, editing the Oblitus Casa video, and I was just overworking myself, honestly. I was definitely overworking myself. But I want to set that aside, because, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. And, you know, I don't want to drag this really long. So I just want to talk about, like, the end of the grind. Because, like, the end of the grind specifically was more memorable, obviously, because it's more recent. But when I got towards the end of the grind, I just didn't feel like playing the game at all. It was very terrible. Every time I got on the game, I would just, it would feel like I would play worse. Like when I got 4 AM for the first time, I thought, okay, we're gonna get this. Like we're definitely getting this. But I mean, it just felt like I lost my consistency for some reason. I was just dying a lot in like 1 AM, 2 AM or less, like mostly like around those times of the night. And adding that to the fact that I didn't want to play the mode, it just made like the end of the grind really difficult for me. And I'm not gonna lie, I honestly like have no idea how I even managed to beat it, because like it's really hard to like do well in a maximum when you're just not motivated at all. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I'm just really glad that I have all the support from you guys and everyone around me, from like the Discord, all that stuff, the Twitch streams. I'm just glad that you guys are there, because honestly, I don't think I have the motivation for stuff like this, but you guys are the ones that bring all that motivation to me. Like you make my motivation meter go from like here to like this. It's a crazy difference. It's like when I mentioned in the girl boss video that if you guys support me, it makes like beating these maximals way easier than if I were to be playing on my own. It's like, it's a crazy thing, but that's just how I work, I guess. But yeah, I'll wrap this up here. I just wanted to like give my thoughts towards the end of the run with like a camera and all that stuff. You know, just make the face reveal for you guys, because like I said, this is the last video of 2025. I wanted to end on a banger, and yeah, here I am. How you doing, guys? That's me. This is not like AI. This is not me lip syncing a random dude. That's actually Luffuu right here, this guy. So yeah, back to the video. Okay, that was cringe as hell. I'm not gonna do that again. Let's just go back to the video. So even though I was so close, I decided to finally take a break. Only a few days, but I needed to just put my mind on something else for a bit. Until one day when I decided, you know, let's practice a bit of HP off stream, just to get the hang of it again before I begin streaming. Good idea, buddy. Great idea, even. The one time, and I'm not joking, the literal one time I don't stream the game, I just play it on my own, I get my very first 5 AM. In fact, this could have very well been a win. I didn't record or anything, so unfortunately I can't show exactly what happened, but I remember dying to Rockstar Bonnie. Power pace was good, coin pace was fine. The only thing that made me lose this attempt, and this is gonna sound like cope, is that I wasn't streaming. When I reached 5 AM, the only thing I was thinking at the moment was, bro, you cannot beat this right now. You won't have any proof and it'll be the biggest disaster of all time. So I stopped focusing on the game and forgot to grab the guitar. I could have very well fluked 5 AM, but I just didn't want to do it without proof. So I started streaming again. There was quite literally nothing holding me back from getting this done. If I needed to give it all I got last time, this time I had to crank everything up to 1,000,000% and go beyond any of my limits for the last time. Get this done. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe this. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh my god, my heart. Dude, I haven't been this nervous in so long. Holy shit. I can't even believe how I managed to win. I actually don't believe. I was so nervous. The unthinkable had been done. All expectations were shattered. In about 35 days and over 60 hours of attempts, I beat what I assume will be my hardest challenge for a decent while. This grind was easily the hardest one so far, though honestly, I was expecting this to take at least 2 months. Funnily enough, 5020 NDC Deluxe took me longer to get my first win than HP, but that just shows how far I've come. How each and every single one of the challenges I beat makes me stronger and more consistent. What used to be a really difficult challenge for me became really easy, and an actual really difficult challenge now takes me half of the time of what used to be my hardest 8 months ago. For those who are wondering, I began attempting this for real on September 9th and completed it October 14th. I don't think I'll ever forget the struggles I went through to get this done. I just want you all to know, all of this is because of you guys. If I didn't have the amazing community I have today with over thousands of people cheering me on and eagerly waiting for the next video, I would never have the motivation necessary to do stuff like this. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you to each one of you beautiful individuals that watch my videos, that watch my Twitch streams, that interact on my Discord server, everyone. Thank you so much. But well, I guess that's it. The top 10 curse, at least for the MML, is broken. I don't really know what's going to be the next step after this. Maybe we'll dial it back a bit, play some different max modes, different games even. But what I do know is that the job isn't done. I set a goal of beating a top 10 AML, and I will try my very hardest, even if it's the last thing I do within this community, to get it done. But that's going to be it for me for 2025. Looking back at it, this was one hell of a year, huh? To have gone from Super Golden Freddy to Hopeless Pursuit within a year, it's an amazing feeling. I'm definitely very satisfied with the progress I've made. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I know it's such a small little action and easy to forget, but it really makes all the difference and helps me to keep going. If you'd like, you should also consider joining my Discord server. The invite link will be in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, Happy New Year's, and I'll see you in 2026, the next chapter of my journey. Trust me, I won't disappoint. Anyway, I'll see you guys in my next completion.